What's going on, guys? Emo Tempest here today, and we are back for another episode of Tales of the Emissaries. Today is episode 4. We have quite a couple things to talk about. I kind of skipped last week because I was only able to play once, and I hadn't really decided on what we were gonna do. We had a lot of ideas brewing, honestly, and this is kind of what we're gonna go through. The new water lightning scions, sort of, and then this one is what I wanted to talk about too. This is like a fun, like an earth, a fire earth kind of like summon deck, Rydia, if you will, and then like a new way to play rebels, I think. And we'll talk about that in a second. But yeah, so we played Monday, and then we kind of skipped the whole week. I hadn't even had a chance to stream. I was, life stuff, work stuff. But then, we were able to play again on locals, and then this tested really a lot better than it did the week before. So those are the main takeaways from from the last week. So, but I did want to have a lot more to talk about this time, so we'll get into it now. As always, thanks for coming and joining me and listening to these episodes. I really appreciate it. So yeah. First is Water Lightning Scion. So Michael Burrow, I think this is how to pronounce that right. I met him at Re-Raise, and he played me in day 2 of the extra standard tournament. And he, showed me he played me with a list kind of revolved around this Ishtola, right? And he had a lot of really cool combos in that deck and a lot of stuff. So I wanted to see it, and he shared his information with me. And then I came back and I decided, all right, I'm gonna figure this out. Or I'm going to try to figure something else out, something with it, right? Because it was so cool. I think the version he sent me wasn't the updated one, because I noticed there was a lot of discrepancies from what I remember seeing, as from the one he saw. I think he mentioned too he might have made changes the night before or something, right? Or the day before for the weekend. Anyway, so the whole thing is it's based around Ishtola, right? She has a lot of really cool effects if you guys haven't been over them. The first one is when she enters, reduce target forward, reduce it by 4k for each scion, job scion, right, of the 7th dawn. So she comes in, reduced by 4. If Urianger or Thancred are out, reduced by 8. Or if both of them are out, reduced by 12. So really, really, really strong. It's a big reduction, right? It's pretty good. And then her second ability, dull an active job scion, choose a category 14 forward until the attorney gains haste and first strike. So when she blocks, a few techniques, a few tips when you play this card or when you play this list. When she blocks, if it's 7k or less, you can tap her and then give herself first strike. If you have a way to buff her, usually with Princess Sarah or anything like that, you can kind of take an 8k with you. Or if you have Oracle out, just obviously be careful if they remove the Oracle. But either way, in that case, you still have other plays, which we'll talk about, right? And then the other thing about her is she has an S, right? So S2 Lightning, tap her, deal 9,000 to all forwards other than the job scions, right? So she board clears. She's got a lot of things going for her, and at first at least for me anyway, I was closed-minded enough to think that she would go in with the rest of this. And after I saw this list and kind of what she can do, I was really, really excited. And so part of this package is being able to give 14 characters haste, right? And it's obviously just mainly them. I only have the Lakshmi and the Leviathan at this point, but I was thinking about what else we can do in this list. But this is the original version. This is what I started with. We'll go through it again. The 2 Yunas, triple Urianger, Oracle, Ishtola, triple Rain, Lightning, Lakshmi, Thancred, Leviathan, triple Famfrit, Thunder Drakes, Blue Worms, 1 Spectral Keeper, Sarah, Summoners, Alchemist, Palmer, Crow, Alvelias, Avjong, Merlwib, Aldo, Sarah, and 2 Chadleys. So the main combos to take away from here are play Thancred. If you have enough water, bring back Ishtola. When Ishtola comes in, you'll reduce by 8, kill something, tap her to give Thancred haste. If your opponent has any active forwards that are equal to or less than the lightning characters you have, Thancred will swing, kill something else, and hopefully give you a point of damage, right? Other combos, the same thing. We'll have Thancred come out, bring Urianger. Urianger will play a monster. If you have a Thunder Drake, kill a 2-drop, and then when it resolves, send it forward back to his hand. And then you can play Ishtolas if after that. Either way, what's cool is that like the whole thing revolves around giving each other haste, and so we kind of lean into those powers. That's where Rain comes into. So because we're already playing a few monsters for the Urianger, just to kind of get some value out of him. If not, what's the point, right? If he's just a Scion, then he's kind of like a useless card. So we kind of have to fit into the monster thing a little bit more. So the Rains was a good way for me to adapt to that. Letting these guys die is no big deal. Once this guy kills a Rydia or a Braska, we're fine. The blue worms just to draw kind of get you there, and then help close out games as well. We've learned that keeping 3 blue worms in the pocket is a good thing now. I was kind of skeptical on this card when it first came out because it's mandatory, but it still works. Unfortunately, obviously don't play it if I think I've said this too, when you're running against an Agrius, the new Agrius, you'd have to target her every turn and lose a card. And you can't skip your battle phase, so the attack phase. So it's weird, but it's a good card all around. Like other than those certain situations, Yuna's another good one that we love, that we used to love, right? And then she kind of fell off, but still very powerful in its own regard. Giving it haste when you need to is going to be very, very crucial. But other than that, you can always just party out and then draw the 2 cards, and then it'll sit there for next turn or whatever if your opponent hasn't done anything or they just can't set up or whatever. So that's kind of the main stuff here. Oh, going back to this play too, right? If your opponent, like if you have Oracle and you block, and then it like, I'm sorry, you block with Ishtola. She's at 9k with Oracle out. You'll tap Ishtola to give her first strike. You'll win that. In response, they try to remove Oracle. If you have Urianger or Thancred out, you can effectively bring ideally you bring Urianger out, play a monster if you have it, and then send that forward back to, get rid of that forward that's attacking Ishtola. So you have like 1 saving grace there too. Or you can do this into the lightning that's also possible. And in a perfect world, you have 9 water characters that you can send it back. But there's a few other plays that, like I said, that you can kind of do there. And so it works out for us. It's really good. You also have the Princess Sarah here to buff. So anyway, the backups here were the biggest problem. I felt like they were just kind of like a hodgepodge of things. The Princess Sarah to color fix, Ovelius to kind of recur all of these abilities seems very good. It's still very good. My problem is that Ovelius is extremely slow. Without any FFT stuff, like to kind of die and draw and stuff, it doesn't really work with us. And I couldn't fit stuff in. This list was already like pretty tight. The main things are going to be the Chadley, the Aldo. I found the Whip unnecessary. The Abjan can kind of come and go. And then, as much as I like these cards in like, some people would say a vacuum, but I would say a pocket, right, instead for me, because it's a smaller like use. So like being able to bring, dig for cards is great, and then being able to recur anything. But again, I guess I'm finally getting into that mentality where my backups need to do something on entry for the most part. And so when they're not, it just feels bad, at least in this meta, right? Like everything else feels bad. And so that's where I am with these 5. And then, unfortunately these, Summoner's just a great card all the time. I can't argue with that. And Chadley almost feels bad sometimes too, even though it helps you like, recur stuff later. You're going to get your CP back, but initially it feels bad. But yeah, so this was the first version. It felt okay, but it still had some tricks, but this whole package didn't work out for me. Version 2. Now this one plays a lot better. The few changes I made was cut 2 out of LAN. We took out the Famfrits, the Leviathans, and then we cut out some backups. I think the Crow and the Palmer and some stuff. The backup count's a little lower, unfortunately, but when you're getting into, if you open the Sarah, Aldo, or even like the Chadley, you're okay. Anything else is a little rough. this is where I'm going to continue to work on the list, but I added the Realms, 2 Behemoth Caves, Felthanos, and Thancred. Well, Thancred was already there. We also added 2 Skeletons, 2 Cleons. We cut the Drakes to 2 each, and then added 2 Spectral Keepers. The biggest thing I found is that I really needed Spectral Keeper all the time, so I wanted to make sure to bring him out. Playing it this version now, I think I could cut him to make room for another 1-drop, maybe an Adamantoise when necessary. But I just needed more things to kill, more outs. Because even though Y'shtola kills things, and Thancred kills things, and Lightning kills things, we still needed more. And being that the Fanfrits didn't do enough for me last one too, I got those out to move forward with this list in a different direction, right? And honestly, I think they helped a lot. Like when I was playtesting, when I was practicing, the Behemoth K is just a badass card that just steals games from everybody all the time. And then being able to reborn him, like bring him back with a Thancred, is just great. But yeah, either way, you have the Chadleys to recruit this stuff. The Felthanos is there for protection. I think I can bring him down to 1. Yeah, there's a lot of space here to mess with, but these numbers are coming back and forth. I'm not sure where I am here. I want to add more 14 stuff, but there's no good 14. I don't think there's good enough things that fit here yet. Things I'm falling in love with though is the land and the rain. I've already started building other color lists with just these now, like to prioritize here, as opposed to prioritizing here. Yeah, the Cleons were brought in because there's no summons anyway, right? So I might as well be safe. Also, playing a Cleon is such a cheap out before you play a Thancred, or the Realm, or the Y'shtola, or any of these, right? Because your opponent always has Amaterasu. Why else would we, why would we play Enter the Field abilities? Excuse me. But yeah, again, I cut the backups, and although it did work, I often lived at 3. 3 is where you want to live, really, for to pitch 1 for Behemoth, pitch 1 for Realm, pitch 2 for these guys. And then realistically, you're building up your monster count to kind of fill the Thancred void for his abilities. I think my goal this week, I'm going to play with this one more week. I think my goal is to kind of refine this backup line, and then just mess with some numbers here. Again, I need more 1-drops. Playing a Realm late game kind of sucks, and then just not having enough of these guys, it doesn't feel good either. I think I might cut the unit to 1, the Lakshmi to 2, and stuff like that, but it's just a numbers game here. The matchups that we played, it was like an Ice Earth FFT, I want to say, Knights mixture package. We got away with some things there. It was pretty good. The second one was like a Rydia Palamporum deck. We also got away with some things there. But I think overall the removal was a lot better for something like that. Oftentimes I find myself in a situation where I don't have that initial spot removal for those low cost, absurdly powerful cards. And so the Skeletons and the Thunder Drakes obviously help with that. And the Cleons helped a lot in that matchup too. Round 3 was FF10. That one was, I just drew really good, I think, compared to my opponent at the time, and everything kind of worked out for me, but it was good. And then the last one, I think we also would have had, but it didn't work out for me at the end. So those were the matchups. I would like to test this a lot more against some of the more competitive meta stuff, more things I'm kind of see, if we could run some games against Avalanche and Soirees, even some Windex, I think, just to kind of see where this fits. That's what I'll set out to do, and then put this somewhere in the grand scheme of a meta tier list. But overall, it's a fun deck. When you get away with some of these plays, it's really absurd. It just feels very, very, very dominating. And so I like it for that reason. There's other routes you can go here in these colors too. We could even just cut the whole 14 package, at all of it pretty much. Stick to the monsters and the twins, or the siblings, whatever you want to call them, and just focus heavily here, and then more stuff like this. I could probably even still keep the Thancreds, right? Because Rain can fix that. but it's just we don't need this whole little force package, it seems. But for now, it's good. Next is just the random other decks that I had in mind. This is called Garbage Day, and so it's just a, after seeing what that new mono fire list that's running around and playing against it, where it just drops, Braska and Magissa, and then just spams forwards and stuff. Yeah, it's annoying. So I kind of thought of something that we could do with there also while still playing both of these cards. And so we landed on this, right? We landed on Iridia Braska deck with Palom and Scarjos and, Braska's here and, a few backups to kind of play stuff. This is okay too. It was successful. It does what it did what it wanted to do. I mean, I'm sure we could tweak it a little bit more to get better results, but overall, if you guys want to start there and do something different, that kind of like should counter those other versions, in my opinion, but needs more testing. And also, triple Scarjo, just to kind of like whittle down things with the Brynhildr. You can kill damage, bigger stuff, and still draw your card. Same thing with the Braska. If you, Scarjo something, you can kill 14s now. You can kill 10Ks here. Even with the Squalls, when Scarjo comes out, you can just make something die. If you needed to get rid of it to like before the block or whatever and stuff. So I really just like the Scarjo for this list, but Scarjo also fits with the Iridia and the Porum to kind of like. My biggest thing would be to bring it back, and that's what the Mashiri would do. And the Choose, kind of just let it come in, then recur it somehow. If not, it just becomes a forward with the Aerith, and it just punches things for 5k. And then you also have the regular thing too, right? When you back attack, it takes damage, and then you kill something for 6k or whatever. There's a bunch of scenarios where he helps out, but overall it tested really well. I think we didn't need the Braskas in the end, so we took these out. I would play more Squalls and then maybe fix this backup line a little bit. I always find that when I make like weird rogue decks or something, like the backup line is always the most annoying thing to like solve. And then lastly, after we've kind of talked about after what happened at the re-raise, right? The Fire Ice won. Daniel went on saying that, and we've kind of all seen that this card is really good, right? When you have crystals, and then the idea is that he can generate crystals for you too, right? So I started to go back and think what lists would benefit from something like that, and so I gravitated to this, to the Rebels list. Now this isn't tested yet. This is version 0.1, right? Like I didn't have time to build it. I had like all these colors in other deck boxes and stuff, but I think if we have time, we'll go forward with this and address this again. The main reason I say the list is because you have so many like weird abilities that that in my opinion lend itself to Soul altogether. Being able to deploy him, pay a crystal to deploy, Leon to bring back Maria, for example, right? Or Firion. It'll cost you 2 crystals, but you can give him haste and stuff. And if you already have someone out, he can party. I kind of want to add Morrow into here as well. Just for that same reason, right? We need to like push the party attacking mechanic, right? And the main thing was that like if Leon's out and you're able to buff everyone past 10, when everyone attacks, you're drawing cards and you're gonna live because you have reduced damage anyway. It's just, I don't know, it just felt like there was a lot of abilities that lended itself to that. The only other thing that I didn't obviously figure out was how to activate everybody again after that. So that's still where my problem is with this list. I know we can change some of these summons, like take out the Beliases and add Diabolos or Asuras and things like that. But again, this is not tested yet. So I just wanted to explore that idea. I wanted to see where else we could shove him that could, fix or maybe update a deck that we've kind of already forgotten about. And that's usually what happens, right? Like the meta, once the new cards come out, we start like pushing away all the old lists and stuff, right? So Rebels had its time to shine for a little while, and 10 unfortunately didn't. But Soul doesn't go in something like in FF10, because 10 has its own like engine and things to revolve around. Rebels always had like their engine, but they had a bunch of extra space to mess with things. And so that's where I am with this. But yeah, guys, I think that's gonna do it. Let me know what you think about the list. Remember, I'm gonna give you both of these, all 4 of these actually, in the description. Make sure to, if you test it, any of them, let me know. Come back to me. Tell me if you like them or what you would do differently. Yeah, I hope this is helpful too, and I hope you like them. And I'll see you next week, hopefully, with some more deck profiles. I'll let you know how this goes and this updated. And then I have like 2 new lists that we're working on as well. Probably an Earth Lightning version with this, and then some Water Earth stuff. So yeah, that's gonna do it. So thank you for listening, and have a good night.